And welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. With me, as he is every other Sunday from Pigtown Sports, he is Zach Moore. Zach, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We're under 2 weeks until spring training. Until spring training, until opening day. It looks like I will now actually be going to opening day. This was going to be the first time since 2007 that I had missed. And then I found out that my wife, in anticipation of me actually going, took off on opening day so that she could be home with our daughter. And then my mother-in-law graciously offered to watch our daughter so my wife can go with me. So we are going to opening day now, and the streak
That's awesome.
continues. I think this is 18 straight years now. So I'm pretty excited to be to keep the streak alive. I was a little displeased with how with the playoffs and not really seeing much improvement and willingness to improve with management. And it's well documented how I feel about Brandon Hyde. I'm trying to give him a little bit more slack this year, to say the least. But I told myself at the end of the postseason that I probably wouldn't go this coming year. But I'm going. I love baseball. Love the Orioles. I have to be there.
Yeah, once you sit over in the off season and then you get a little bit closer, it doesn't matter how mad you get. You start to get excited for the next season. It's inevitable.
Oh, absolutely. And then and what's helping is some of these guys on this roster are performing really well this
Yeah.
spring, so that's getting me even more revved up to get this season off and running. So, but before we do that, just want to remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel, the Costas Inn, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. They have made PressBox's spring training coverage possible. Special thanks to them. And by that, I mean Stan the Fan, Charles, and Luke Jackson were down in Sarasota at Orioles spring training this past week. And if you missed any of their coverage, check it out now at PressBoxOnline.com and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. So again, thank you. Special thanks to Live Casino and Hotel, the Costas Inn, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org for making PressBox's spring training coverage possible. All right. So Zach Eflin gets the good news that he will be the opening day starter. Probably a foregone conclusion even prior to the Grayson Rodriguez injury news, but it has been made officially official. Eflin hasn't had a great spring. He did go up to 84 pitches today. He had to come out in the fourth with, I believe, 2 outs, thanks to a couple of errors in that inning today. But he did come back out he had to come out in the third, but then came back out in the fourth, and he pitched into the fifth inning, again, throwing 84 pitches. Has walked 4 guys over his last 2 outings. He's got a 7.88 ERA overall. But even though he hasn't had a great spring, Corbin Burns didn't have a great spring last year either, and then he pitched to a sub-3 ERA and won 15 games for the ball club. And if you look at Zach Eflin's last 2 springs prior to this year, 6.23 and 8.49 ERAs in 2023 and 2024, and then he went on to have a 3.50 and 3.59 ERA in the regular season those 2 years. So a lot of this is working on getting the ups. That's the most important thing, getting the pitch count elevated. It's his second to last start before the season does start. How are you feeling, Zach, about Zach Eflin being named the opening day starter and about his chances to have a big year for the Orioles?
Yeah, I'm content with it. I mean, like you said, it's by proxy. I think if Grayson was healthy, it was probably going to be Grayson. But Zach's the next best option. He's a good guy. He's going to go out and give us a quality start. The ERAs in spring training don't bother me a whole lot. I mean, because the first couple outings, he really only go like 2 innings anyway. And if you give up 1 run, like you got a skyrocketed ERA anyway. It's really hard to come back for that. So you typically see if a guy gives up a run, you're going to see a high inflated ERA for that spring. It doesn't bother me. I think Zach's going to be fine. My expectation for him this year is probably to win, 13, 14 games, pitch to, we'll say like a sub 4. I'm not going to go down and say like a low 3. I'd just say a sub 4, which is not an ace material. I just think that's just who Zach Eflin is. We're going to see the normal Zach Eflin this year. But he's still going to get, what I mean by that is he's going to turn out some exceptional starts, and then he's sometimes just going to get a little roughed up by teams he probably shouldn't. That's just baseball sometimes, and that's kind of what he's had in his career. But it always seems like when the lights get the brightest, Zach Eflin shows up. So he's kind of the right guy for the job. I'm very happy with him.
Well, yeah, and he's the incumbent in that clubhouse. He was here last year. He was their best starter down the stretch, despite that one stint at the end of August into September where he was on the IL for 15 days. And then and you don't look at a guy like Dean Kramer as being your opening day starter. You maybe lock him in to be your home opening starter, but
Yeah.
But here's the thing: you don't know who your fifth starter is right now, so it's going to be the first four in Toronto are going to be in some order. Eflin, we know, is on opening day, and then it's going to be Morton, Sugano, Kramer. I think it's in that order. I think you give way to Morton because he's that veteran, and he's been there, done that, so he's going to be your number two starter, in my opinion. And then the toss up for me is between Sugano and Kramer. Kramer is kind of like Eflin. He's been here. He's probably earned the right to be your number three starter. But Sugano has been. He's one of the greatest pitchers in NPO in MPB history. And on top of that, he has been lights out this spring in three starts, in 4 games, covering 3 starts, 10 in the third innings pitch, 11 strikeouts, has yet to give up even an unearned run, and has a 0.77 WHIP. Who are your 2, 3, and 4 starters in Toronto if you're Brendan Hyde?
I would say the same. Morton, Sugano, and then Kramer. Where I get a little confused, and it's probably not going to go how we want, is that home opener. I think it should go to Cade Povich. He kind of shows that he's your future. It's likely going to be Suarez as like a thank you to last year. I think, which is probably fine. He's going to get a standing ovation because of what he did last year. He deserves it too. I think Povich deserves it just as well. What better way to show off a guy that you have the utmost confidence in than to trot him out there on your home opener in front of a sold out fan base? That's just me. I think both guys are deserving, but God, I hope they go with Povich.
Yeah, for me, it's Povich. For me, I mean, the biggest bugaboo for him was his wildness, his inability to consistently throw strikes. And in 12 and 2/3 innings, I think it is this spring, he's walked 1 batter or 2 batters, I think it is. And yeah, he went out there in his last start and through 4 innings, he had given up 1 run. Then in that 5th inning, he went back out there, and there was an error. I think it was by Jordan Westberg, or no, I don't think it was by Westberg. It was by somebody playing third base. It was not named Westberg, and it caused the floodgates to open. They would have been out of that inning without allowing a run. Instead, 5 runs came across the plate, or 4 runs came across the plate. So Povich is on the hook for that. The play wasn't ruled an error, but it should have been. Yeah. Otherwise, he doesn't give up 5 runs in 4 and 2/3 innings pitched in that outing. For me, it's got to be Cade Povich. I look at the fact that he's not walking guys this spring. He's striking out a ton of guys. He looks polished. He looks way better than he did at any point. Maybe not at any point, but he looks better than he did, especially with the command, than he did last year. And here's the other thing. Suarez has been pitching better recently. He's starting to kind of get into that groove that you saw him get into when Grayson went down last year. But he has no options. They can't option him down to the minor leagues. If you option Povich, now you need to create space for a long man. So for me, I'm thinking it's got to be Povich. You keep Suarez in the pen. He's got experience in there for you, even if it was a small sample size. If I'm reading the tea leaves, it's Povich in the rotation and Suarez in the bullpen because of that. But I'm not great at predicting the future, especially when it comes to this team. So it could very well be Suarez being in the starting rotation of Povich back in Norfolk. But I think that they're doing themselves a disservice, especially with a ballpark that's designed to get right-handed hitters out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with how good Suarez is being a Swiss Army knife, it's almost a disservice to the team not to have him in that role. Where if he's needed in one of those 4 games in Toronto, you got him. If you send Povich down, then you got to kind of deal with Keegan Aiken. And I like Keegan in certain situations. I don't think I would like him in a long man situation. I think the best overall for the team is to have Cades be that 5th starter.
Yeah. And the thing with Keegan Aiken is, look, there are times where I remember a couple of years ago, it was like his first 5 or 6 outings, he was throwing like 18 balls to four. 18 strikes to 4 balls, where he was just locked in. And like he started the first couple of months of 2022, I think it was, he was just absolutely lights out and then kind of fell off a cliff. 2023 was a lost season for him. And then last year, there were times when Aiken was one of the best relievers in the Orioles bullpen, especially in the second half. But he's got to come into a clean inning. You can't bring Keegan Aiken into a game with somebody on base because he's inevitably going. Even if that guy's on first base with 2 outs, he's giving up a double into the gap and that guy's scoring. He's got to come into a clean inning. For me, I think that Suarez has to be in your bullpen, and you got to have Povich in there. We agree on this one. We'll see how things turn out. Some of the people tuning in right now, John Price says, PTS, my daily dose of O's goodness. So he's a big Pigtown sports guy. He believes that Keegan Aiken is a setup guy. Maybe at this point, because of the fact that Kittredge is out, we're going to get into Kittredge's likely replacement here in a little bit. But Aiken, with the way that Dominguez is pitching, it could be Aiken as that setup guy. But they also have 4 lefties in that bullpen, and they may want to pick and choose where they use those guys. We're also talking a little bit about the rotation. AJ Mukherjee, he says Sugano will be AL Rookie of the Year. That's a bold prediction, but look, if
plus 2,200, right? Put some money on it.
Yeah,
look, it wouldn't hurt. I can promise you that. You put down $10.
Yeah, if Sugano goes out there and he wins double-digit games and his ERA is in the low to mid 3s, he's going to be in the running. You look at Heel last year, won 15 games with a 3.54 ERA. That was your AL Rookie of the Year. Yeah. Unless a Yankee goes out there and wins 13 games with a 4.01 ERA, then they're inevitably the Rookie of the Year because it's New York.
Yeah.
AJ says, but too bad we won't get an extra pick for that. I guess that's because he came over from a foreign league and that doesn't count. Whatever. If he still wins Rookie of the Year, that would be cool. If it's plus 2,200, that's certainly something that you should go be putting $10 down on when 220 for yourself. Today's show brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That is 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. We were able to see a nice comeback from injury today, and that was in the form of Jorge Mateo, as what we all remember back on July 23rd last year, going after a ground ball. He collided with Gunnar Henderson, got his throwing arm. It was his left arm, his glove hand arm.
Glove hand, yeah.
Yeah, bent backwards in a way that you don't like to see. Kind of reminded me of when Brian Roberts bent his backwards on that bunt late in the season back in 2005. It was a gruesome-looking injury for both of these guys. And it looks like Mateo is on the mend. He started today at shortstop. In the first inning, he started a 6-4-3 double play, handled all the chances that he got without making an error at shortstop today. Batting-wise, he grounded out on the first pitch he saw and then struck out on 3 pitches in his second at-bat.
Why am I not shocked that he swung at the first pitch he saw?
Right. So Jorge Mateo, he still believes that he can make it for opening day. Brendan Hyde says that he has doubts about that. Are you interested? Do you find it interesting that he started at shortstop and not second base?
Not necessarily. I think we all know that he can play second, and I don't think that he's going to take any at-bats away from Jackson at any point unless Jackson falls off a cliff, which doesn't seem to be the case right now. And looking into Brandon Hyde's comments, I think they leave Jorge on the 10-day, whether he's ready to go or not.
Yeah.
Because they're going to give themselves a couple series to figure out what the hell they're going to do with him and or who are they getting rid of to make room for him. Right now you got 6 outfielders, and I think they're going to give Heston a real shot to earn some at-bats, some consistent at-bats. They're not getting rid of Lariano. I can promise you that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting rid of Tyler O'Neill. You're not getting rid of Mullins. You're not getting rid of Kowser. You're not getting rid of Urias. So I think it's going to come down to who the hell are they going to get rid of? Mm-hmm. And it might ultimately be Mateo. They're going to give themselves a chance to either find a trade partner for Urias or Mateo or Ryan O'Hearn. Just because you have so many guys that can play first base, I think maybe he potentially could be an odd man out. Likely not because he's such a good hitter. But the roster crunch is starting to become a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing is, they said that they're going to be giving a lot of at-bats to Heston Kjerstad. He's been really hitting the ball pretty well the last couple of weeks after a little bit of a slower start to the spring. But do you think that there's a chance that he ends up back down to AAA? I mean, this front office has been lying to us for a good while now. Do you think that there's a chance that Kjerstad ends up down to AAA instead of being on the opening day roster?
If he wasn't turning 27 years old, I'd say yes. You send a 27-year-old to AAA, and you have basically just negated any value that he ever had.
Mm-hmm.
A team's going to look at that and be like, he's 27. He's not good enough to make your team. Why am I going to give up a top pitcher for that? Why would I give up any kind of a prospect or arm for anything for a guy that can't make your team at 27? I think they're going to have to force him to have plenty of at-bats, probably more than they really want him to. One, to either get him some value back, or two, just because he earns it. I mean, he's your second overall pick at one point. You got to let him play. If they send him back down, it might be one of the worst decisions they've made in a long time, in my opinion, because at that point, you might as well just cut him because you ain't getting nothing for him.
To be fair to Heston, he did just turn 26 a month ago.
Okay, so 26.
So
okay.
he's
either
still
way, though. I mean, a 26-year-old.
But still,
who wants that?
Who's a former second overall pick who is yet to find regular playing time at the big league level. That's a problem, and that's why people that kept saying, well, the Orioles need to trade Heston Kjerstad for a number one starting pitcher.
They got to want him.
Nobody's given up a number one starting pitcher. Yeah, nobody's given up a number one starting pitcher for Heston Kjerstad as the main piece of a picture of a package because he's 26 years old. That's
I was really high on Luis Ortiz from the Pirates before they dealt him for Spencer Horwitz. I felt like that Heston's a better hitter than Horwitz. I know Horwitz have already had a little bit of some at bats and stuff and put up some pretty decent numbers. Heston's a better hitter than that, and I think Pittsburgh jumped that gun a little too soon because Heston's just, and look, Horwitz is already hurt and missing God knows how long. Like that was a bum trade for them, but that would have been ideal for us because Ortiz would have been our number 2 or 3, and he was number 5 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got such a crazy staff, and of course they got 2 more on the way,
and they're all going to be gone in 5
potentially.
years.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Keller may still be an option. I'm not crazy high on Mitch Keller. I mean, he's fine. He'd fit in here real nice. But God, I wish we would have had Luis Ortiz. That would have been really nice for a Heston trade because the value right there just kind of matched up perfectly.
I think getting a middle to top end rotation piece for Heston Kjerstad is a good get. Look, I want to see what Heston Kjerstad can do over a full season. I want to see him get 500 at bats and hit 30 home runs and hit a handful on the Utah street. I want to see that. But I also want to see a legitimate starting rotation. I think the Orioles have a good rotation. I don't know that it's great. And we've seen how they operate at the deadline. I'm not convinced that they're going to go out there and get a difference maker at the deadline because I think they love their prospect. It's funny because I feel like they love their prospects more than other people do, but then more than other teams do. But then at the same time, they traded Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers for Trevor Rogers, who may never pitch for the Orioles again with that. I mean, he probably will because you need that kind of depth, and he is going to come back this year. But
is Kyle Stowers even going to make the team?
I don't know. What do his numbers look like this spring?
Last I looked, they were under 100.
He had under 100
with like 9 Ks and 12 at bats or something. He's hitting 167 now. Yeah, so he's 4 for 24 now. He got it up a little bit. Hitting 167. Yeah, so wow. I mean, there's been a lot of talk that he likely doesn't make the team. So he's striking out 50% of the time right now in spring. I mean, it was before spring even started. There was talk that he wouldn't make the team because of Griffin Conine and how he basically just took all his at bats away. I mean, you go strike out a 50% clip. I mean, you're looking at yourself either a 4A player or just getting released. I mean, to me, that trade was always just Norby for Rogers straight up. I mean, Stowers was – I think they presented Stowers an opportunity to finally get some consistent at-bats somewhere because it wasn't going to ever be here. He was going to fall into that Ryan McKenna role, and I think they just did him a favor and was just like, here here you go. Go prove yourself. You're finally getting a chance, and he hasn't yet. But that was just a Norby for Rogers trade straight up. That was just a favor to Stowers.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I was high on Kyle Stowers because I thought that he had great power potential, but the more he played, the more he struck out, and it just seemed like he was never going to figure it out at the big league level. And so, like, yeah, he was probably just a throw in for that trade. That they were like, look, we'll give you Connor Norby for Trevor Rogers, but you got to take Stowers too.
I really think, and I've said it multiple times, I really think that trade was for Ryan Weathers and broke his finger 2 days before it happened and went on the IL. So it was like, I think they pivoted real quick, and the Marlins were like, what about this guy? And numbers were kind of close. But now when you're looking at Weathers, he rehabbed back. He's lost 25 pounds. He's got 4 mile an hour added to his fastball. He's on 98 now. Like, that was the guy I wanted.
Yeah. What makes you think that it was for Ryan Weathers? Was there anything to back that?
That's just me personally thinking that he was just a better pitcher. Had more control. I don't know. I don't think Trevor Rogers was really on their radar. It just worked out at the time.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine why Trevor Rogers would have been on their radar. And I know that he had pitched like a 3.80 ERA his previous 8 starts or whatever. But I mean, David Hess even pitched to like a 3.88 ERA his last 10 starts way back in like, what was it, 2018 or something like that. So, I mean, guys get on decent runs. Spencer Watkins had a really solid stretch in 2021. So, Gunnar Henderson. He's doing fielding drills right now and light hitting. He still expects to be ready for opening day. I think that the Orioles are hoping that he will be. It's kind of a similar situation with Jorge Mateo, where it's like the player wants to be, the Orioles aren't sure. But in this instance, it's the Orioles are going to be more willing to let Gunnar be ready for opening day than they are Mateo.
Yeah, I mean, well, Gunnar was a very mild little pull or strain or whatever they called it. That's a little different than having Tommy John. And then
yeah, I get that.
Look, they're going to be slow. They know they're not winning a World Series in April. I really don't think they care about the first month of the season. It's let me get my superstar back 100% and not just throw him out there. And because Gunnar, he's still young and he gets off to a slow start and it's going to boil over a little bit. He's going to start trying a little bit harder and he could hurt himself again. And I think they're going to try and contain him himself because he's not going to be able to do it just yet. He's a firecracker and not in a bad way. He's like the ultimate competitor, and he's not going to tell himself to, hey, let's slow down. We haven't seen pitching in a couple weeks. Like, it's okay if I start slow in Toronto. I wouldn't be shocked if they even hold him out of the Toronto series and let him start at home.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. And I agree with you. I don't think that Gunnar. I think he has one speed, and that's play with my hair on fire. I don't think that you can. But I think that there's most professional athletes, especially the ones that play baseball. I think that most of them are
except
like
for Rendon.
That. You don't start to become. yeah, right. Well, but don't even get. I loved him coming out in 2010. I wanted the Orioles to draft him. When I saw him get drafted, I was like, no. And actually, I think that the Orioles took Machado and then Rendon went 6th overall or something like that. And I was like upset that they didn't take him 3rd overall, even though he was there. And now I'm so glad that they did. He doesn't even care about baseball. That just blows my mind. It just absolutely blows my mind. Grayson Rodriguez, he received a cortisone injection for inflammation in his throwing elbow. They said it was going to be a 7 to 10 day shutdown before he starts a throwing program. Brandon Hyde said he'll begin a throwing progression early this week, but that it will be a restart, and then it's going to take a while. So when I hear restart, to me, that means that April is completely out the window, and it means May before we see him in the Orioles.
Potentially.
Uniform.
I just talked about this yesterday with Steve Molesky. For fans that don't know what a throwing program is, you typically start at 30 feet. You get, I think, 20 throws. It could be different now, but this is when I played. 20 throws from 30 feet, then you're done for the day. Come back the next day, you work out. That's it. And then on day 3, you come back out and you get 30 throws from 30 feet. Go back in, you ice. Next day, you run, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to 60 feet. And I think 60 is only like 10 or 15, and then you're done for the day. So when they say it's slow, like it is, And then over the course of 2 weeks, you finally get to about 120 feet, and you start at like 5, and I think you finish with like 25 or 30. And then you do like a 30-foot flat ground, and then you do the 60-foot flat ground, and then you do a 60-foot 6-inch flat ground, whatever. And then you get back into the bullpen, right? And then you're going to throw 2 or 3 bullpens over a couple days span, and then you'll see live hitters on the backfield, usually 1 inning, and then you might go get a rehab start, and then you'll likely probably do 3 or 4 of those. So the potential for him to miss 4 or 5 starts is pretty high, but I wouldn't go too much. It's not a crazy long time, but with him already throwing, the whole off season, whatever, and not having any kind of surgery, it's not going to be as slow than like Kyle Bradish, but it's still going to be slow. They're going to take their time. They're going to make sure nothing flares back up. I have a weird feeling maybe his 4th start is that April 12th game with the all orange. Maybe they could get him ready for that. I don't know if they care about that or not, but I don't know. They keep putting him in the orange and kind of promoting it, so it feels like that's what they're going to look for.
Well, and for those of you who are like, oh, well, I mean, like 30 feet, 60 feet, 90, think about how short 30 feet
It's like playing catch with your 5-year-old.
Yeah, it's like go stand on a 10-yard line on a football field and throw a baseball to the goal line and see how short that is. You think about first base, home plate to first base is 90 feet. Imagine a third of that. That's like a bunt. It's like a bunt. You do that essentially
for 3 days.
For 3 days, and you're probably not throwing max. Well, obviously you're not throwing max effort at 30 feet. It's legitimately just getting your shoulder a little lost, a little loose, right? Like that is, and when you're a professional athlete, and I'm sure it is going to be so hard for Grayson to start that throwing program and be like 30 feet. Brutal. Are you kidding me?
It's absolutely brutal.
Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, it just sounds like ugh. That is so much for so little for so much. I guess is the way to put it. But yeah. So Grayson Rodriguez, maybe April 12th. I'd be shocked if we see him before the 3rd or 4th week of April. And then Ramon Arias, I had a slight tweak of his hamstring on Wednesday playing in that game. He's been sitting out more or less they've been kind of slow playing with him too, but it's been more as a precaution than anything else, just to make sure that it doesn't get worse. Brandon Hyde said that he will play in the game on Thursday following the off day on Wednesday. Ramon Arias is one of the more important players on this team as far as a bench person is concerned, because he can play all 4 infield positions. He's won a Gold Glove at third base. Was has always been really good with runners in scoring position, and was really a saving grace for the team after Jordan Westberg missed 7 weeks with that broken hand after getting hit by that pitch on July 31st. So Ramon Arias is very important to this team, and one of the things that came out was that his main position is, he said that his main position is second base. And I always thought that was the case, but they keep playing. They've been playing him at third base a lot, and obviously he won a Gold Glove there. But I don't think he's made an error at second base since he's been with the Orioles. And I just kind of thought it was interesting that he kind of said second base is his main position.
I think at the time we didn't have a third baseman when he first came up, and it was like then Westberg came up, but then he played second, and it just like.
It was Rio Ruiz playing third base all the time.
That dude struck out 240 times a year. So
yeah, if he was allowed to get 500 bats, 240 times a year.
But I think he played well when he came up on third, and he ended up winning that Gold Glove. And everything was just like, why would I move a Gold Glove at this point? But whatever he does, he's a great utility guy. He could start on some teams in this league. I've said that a few times.
He could start on a lot of teams in this league, and look, he's a good ball player. I loved him here in 2021 when that team lost 108 games. Like, I really loved having Ramon Arias on the team. I thought he could be a piece for the future, but look, he's been surpassed by other better players, and so at this point, the fact that he's here and he's a utility player. There are way worse utility players in this league. He's a legitimate player who could start on probably a third of the teams in baseball right now. Today's show brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Gary Williams, Buster Olney, Jameer Young, and more, you can find them all now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or right here on Facebook and YouTube. All right, Zach. We both kind of have the same feelings about Brian Baker. He's going to be on the opening day roster. He's unless they make a move for another reliever, like we just have to resign ourselves to the fact that Brian Baker has somehow survived another offseason.
It must be nice
you're
to
making
just throw
sense
98
right now.
Doesn't matter where it goes, just throw it.
Right. Like he's going to be on the roster, and he seems to be the guy to replace Andrew Kittredge. Kittredge ends up with the need to have arthroscopic knee surgery or microscopic, whatever the hell they call it. He's going to miss at least 2 months, but I won't come back to the second half of the season. And Baker, he retired the first 9 batters he faced. He's been talking about how he seems to be throwing harder, and his changeup with a new grip looks nasty, and his sinker looks good, and blah, 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 blah. After retiring those first 9 batters, he then goes out and gives up 3 home runs in this next outing. Then he goes out in his next outing and gives up a run. Today he had a scoreless outing, but he allowed 2 hits and a walk. And I believe the third out of the inning was an outfield assist from Vance Honeycutt to Nab Johan Rojas at the plate. So it would have been another run. Like I said, throwing harder, secondary offerings look good. But my concern is his response when he was asked to describe his spring. And he said, and this is a direct quote from Brian Baker, "My miss is right down the middle instead of like getting into bad counts, a bunch of balls," he said. "It's a good problem to have overall. It's a lot different. That's the life of a pitcher. You're always making adjustments. The stuff is great. I love that I'm throwing strikes." I don't want your miss to be right down the middle of the plate. I'd rather your miss be, off the corner or high or low in the dirt. I don't want your miss right down the middle of the plate because that's how you end up giving up a 3-run homer when you come into a game where you're leading by 2 and there are 2 guys on base. To me, that does not instill confidence. To me, that says I'm okay if I throw it right down the middle and somebody hits to the country mile because at least I'm throwing strikes. What the hell is that, Zach?
That's a guy that throws 98 and doesn't know where it's going. He's just happy that it's in the zone. It's the Jacob Webb effect. He can just sometimes throw it right on the corner, and then sometimes it goes right down the middle. And then when it goes down the middle, it gets blasted out. I'm not a big Baker fan. I hope he does well. I think you and I are on the same page of that. We hope he does well. It's just I've seen enough.
The guy plays for the Baltimore Orioles. I want him to do well. There is. I think Ryan McKenna is the only guy that I ever saw, and again, it's nothing personal. I just know that overall he wasn't that good. So when he would get a big hit in the game, I'm like, he just earned himself like 2 more weeks on this roster, and so, but like, I generally want the Orioles players to do well because that means that the Orioles are likely doing well. I want Brian Baker to be a lockdown, shutdown, high leverage reliever. I don't think he is. I know he isn't, and I don't believe that he ever will be. I've said 2-3 shows in a row now. I have to see this dude do it for an entire year, an entire season to believe that he's that guy. And even then, I probably will only believe it like 70%, and then you look at Sir Anthony Dominguez. Scared the crap out of me coming into this season because he gave up 9 home runs with I think it was like 9 home runs with the Orioles last year in limited time with them. Like he came over at the deadline and he still managed to give up 9 home runs. Birdland Sports Zone says, "I fear for our bullpen." I didn't think Andrew Kittredge was enough, and now he's not here. And now it's like you got rid of Kimbrel and you brought back in Felix Bautista because he's healthy now. But it's going to be a multi-closer situation. The team has said it themselves going into the season because they don't want to overload Bautista too soon. This bullpen scares the crap out of me, Zach. And we talk about it every time you're on the show. I don't think they've done enough. And I don't know that they're going to be able to do anything to get this bullpen any better because I don't think they're making a trade. And I don't think there's going to be somebody like Danny Coulomb out in the scrap heap for them to throw into that bullpen at the end of the month.
They put themselves in a bad spot. Not having the options in the bullpen. They've pretty much shown that they're not willing to just eat money and cut a guy. Um, with Dominguez or Aiken or Perez or anyone, Baker. I mean, what has Brian Baker done for you to not want to upgrade him with Daniel Robertson or David Robertson? They throw the same speed.
Right.
I mean, would you rather have an established closer or Brian Baker because he might get claimed off waivers? Give me a break. That's about as negative as I'll get about that because I have very strong feelings about it. There's guys that you can upgrade, and I understand you have to eat some money, but look, you haven't spent it. You've been the okay to spend it. Maybe eat it and then upgrade it. There's guys to do it with. Aiken's a nice piece. He's upgradable. Perez, same thing. Unless they really come out this year and the Orioles know something and we don't, and they're just going to shove it up everybody's butt. That's different. But I think we've all seen them enough to know, like, you can't trust almost any of them in a big situation. Like, Perez is great when he wants to be. It's when he's not, it's just like, God dang, here we go again, But when he's on, it's like he makes Aaron Judge look stupid. He makes Yordan Alvarez look stupid. Yeah, sure, if you want to hang on to that guy, fine. I mean, Keegan Aiken, you only allowed Keegan Aiken to have 11 innings last year. And I shouldn't even say innings. It's like, I think it was only like 24 at-bats in a high leverage situation. So you can't trust him. The 7th, 8th, or 9th, you cannot trust Keegan Aiken. They've shown that, but they literally won't do it. And he still only had like a mid-3 in low leverage, which was like 67th overall in baseball. You can upgrade that guy who's not making a ton of money with David Robertson. I love Aiken. His job is hard, when the game's out of the control to leave it there and not give up any more than give your offense a shot. I get it. And it's a hard role to do, and he does it well, but damn it, I want David Robertson.
Yeah, he's still out there. Now, the question is, I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but I saw somebody speculate, is he maybe thinking about retirement? But I can't imagine that if he was thinking about retirement, I mean, he obviously hasn't filed the papers yet.
Right.
And he's still out there. He's got to still be throwing because his name is still being mentioned as a pitcher who could potentially pitch in a bullpen for somebody this year. So why not make a run at him? Lance Lynn said he'd be willing to move to a bullpen in the right situation. He's still out there. He had a sub-4 ERA in like 23 starts last year, and he's lost.
And he
20
lowered
pounds.
his home run count by like 14 or something from the year prior.
Right. And the Kyle Gibson's out there, but he's a starting pitcher. He's apparently, as of like 2 weeks ago, he was up to 60 pitches or something for an outing or something like that. And Ken Rosenthal.
If we lost Cade Povich, I would go sign Kyle Gibson, and that is it.
Yeah, agreed. Because to me, you're not making your team better. You're just getting another arm in there who's going to do what somebody else is already capable of doing, if not worse, in your rotation. And then I look at this team and I say they need one more reliever, probably two, because Kittredge is out. Because I thought they needed one more reliever, even when Kittredge was still considered to be healthy. I just don't understand not going out and getting another reliever. Now, to their credit, a week ago, Ken Rosenthal did report that the Orioles are still actively looking to add to their roster. So maybe they are. Maybe they're waiting to see what some guys look like. Maybe they're, like you said, maybe they're waiting to see what Mateo looks like the rest of spring training to see if he's tradable or if O'Hearn's tradable. I have no idea what they're going to do. In my heart of hearts, I believe that they're going to stand pat with what their team is right now. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I mean, you continue to run Brian Baker out there year after year after year, and he'll give you some bright spots, but for the most part, he is just god-awful. Like you said, throws 98, has no idea where it's going. We know where it's going. It's either going for a ball or going over the left field fence.
It's Mike Baumann all over again. It's just afraid to give up on him. You're going to give him his opportunities. Some are going to pan out. Some aren't. The ones that aren't are going to be really ugly. Just hope that it's not in a big situation. The problem is right now, like, I trust Baker over Dominguez. Like, Baker might be the setup man. Like, that's where we're at.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Right now, I trust a lot of guys over Dominguez. Even Brandon Hyde said recently. I think it was I think Rock put this in his blog yesterday that even Brandon Hyde was like, "Look, spring training numbers. You can't really put too much stock in them, but he probably needs to start getting some guys out." The guy's got a 23.13 ERA right now. And if the manager's saying you got to start getting some guys out, we got to start seeing some results. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? It's great that you can throw 98, and it's bad when the beat writers are talking about a good outing for you where you let the first two guys get on base and you somehow wiggled out of the inning. Like, that's bad when they're like, oh, he seems to be turning a corner. He still had a 2 whip for that inning.
He's got like a 4.53 whip right now in the spring.
It's
bad.
Every time I go to look up somebody's numbers, my computer slows down, so I'm not gonna do that. But look, the 23.13 ERA should probably tell you that his whip is probably about a 4.5 right now. I'm just so nervous about this bullpen. I don't know how you can look at the bullpen and say, yeah, this bullpen's good to go. You're doing this club a disservice because you're like, Ciano Perez, when he's on, he's really good. So if he's pitching to his ability, he's really good. If Soto and Dominguez and Baker pitch to their ability, they're really, really good. Well, but what if they don't pitch to their ability? And not all of these ifs are going to work out. And I think that you're really going to find yourself in a bad spot if you enter the season with this as your bullpen for a prolonged period of time. I just think it's a mistake.
I don't get it. We're living on the ifs on a lot of things, and just bullpen shouldn't be one of them. There was a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of quality bullpen arms that were available this offseason, and I don't think we tried for many of them. I'm with you. I just think they're afraid to just move on. And I don't know if it's money related or like they're just afraid the guy just might pick up somewhere else and figure it out, but bite the dust eventually. Like, I get it, but like Birdland said, Soto might be the setup guy. I don't want to see Cano in that role at all. Cano mentally cannot handle it, in my opinion. He's a great seventh guy. When it starts to get late in the game, Cano struggles. And I don't know why, but when he comes in and it's not a clean inning, he's just as bad as everybody else. And it gets charged to everybody else, so they look worse. But Cano cannot get anyone out when he comes in with runners on. And
he also can't hold a runner.
No,
he can't hold runner to save his life. Now, do you think that Tyler Wells is like the Orioles are sitting there like, we're getting Tyler Wells back maybe in July, because he didn't have like the full on Tommy John surgery. He had that brace put in, right?
Yeah, the brace.
I think that's a little bit quicker of a recovery time.
It's supposed to help with swelling and stuff.
So like maybe they're like, look, if we can weather the storm first few months of the year, get Tyler Wells back to pitching that back end of the bullpen. But again, that's
a long time.
If we can, I don't know, man.
I would love it. I've always loved Wells in the bullpen scenario. I mean, especially as a setup man, because he's almost as tall as Felix, right? He's 6'7", and he's got that bulldog mentality too, where he knows he's better than you and he's going to challenge you. I've always loved Tyler Wells. I think he'd be a fantastic bullpen arm, but you got to get him rehabbed. You got to get him back up to speed, and it might not be July.
Yeah.
Might be August, might be September.
He's 29, 30 years old now, and
something like that.
And he's already had 2 major elbow surgeries. So you're banking on the guy to not have to have a third one. I mean, we look at what happened with John Means, and this doesn't happen with every pitcher, but John Means came back from Tommy John surgery and immediately needed to have another one. What did he make? 12 starts between 2023 and 2024, not even.
And he doesn't even throw hard.
Yeah, exactly.
He did 85.
No,
86 maybe.
No, John Means not. He was touching 95, 96.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was touching 95, 96.
Before the first one or after the second one?
Both.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember. I remember in, I think it was 2020, he came out and he was throwing like 96 in spring training, and then he had that shoulder injury and he had to miss. He only came out and threw 4 4 starts at the end of the season because it was only 2 months long. But he was really good in those 4 starts. Then he came back out the next year and he was throwing like 93, 94 because he wasn't trying to throw as hard. And then when we saw him come back from Tommy John surgery at the end of 2023, he was back up around 94 to 96 again. So he was getting it up there. And then that changeup was in the low 80s. God, man, when John Means is healthy, he is damn good. It's just he's never healthy. All the best of luck to him out there in Cleveland. I hope that he makes, I hope he gets back with them and he ends up making 15 starts the second half of the year, and he looks really good for them. It's just a good dude and just a quality pitcher when he's right.
They like to hurt guys, and they rehab them back, and they're fantastic when they finally come back.
Yeah. Daniel says, John Means' average fastball velocity last season was around 90.5 miles per hour, a decrease of over 3 miles per hour from his peak of 93.8. I'm guessing Daniel just looked this up, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I remember seeing him
average.
I remember seeing him hit 95, 96, definitely before the Tommy John surgery, and I'm pretty sure I saw it in September of 23. Pretty sure I saw it in September 23 coming back from that.
It's probably an average because, and most people don't realize it, but the averages are way lower than peak. I think I looked it up one time. Somebody was complaining about Rogers throwing 92, and I was like, well, when you look at it, 92 from the left side is like the 6th highest average in all of baseball. Like it's average. Once averages go way down once you see a lot of fastballs,
and then you can also see a starting pitcher whose average fastball might be 92 miles an hour, but if you were to put them in their bullpen, in a bullpen, that's going to go up to like 95, 96. Because if their average is 92, they can get it up there. They can get it up 95, 96. I remember seeing Chris Tillman throw a couple fastballs at 98 miles an hour.
98. I remember that.
Coming out of the bullpen. But then when he was a main starter, you'd see him sit 93, 94 miles an hour because you try throwing 96, 97, 98 miles an hour and try getting into the 6th and 7th innings. It ain't going to happen.
Tommy Hunter was the same way. It was like 98, 99.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like 92, 93 as a starter.
Right. Those guys can really ratchet it up if you only need them in a 1-inning, 2-inning scenario. It's a lot different. But I'm surprised that his fastball velocity. But you also, how much was he pitching hurt? He said that prior to that start I think it was in Cincinnati, when he came out, he gave him 3 innings of shutout ball, and then he had to go have Tommy John surgery. He said that he knew in the bullpen that he was done. He said he knew in the bullpen before the game he needed another surgery, but he wanted to give the Orioles what he could for that game. So I'm wondering how long he was pitching hurt where he couldn't get it up, where he couldn't get the velocity up.
Poor John.
Poor guy. Have you seen? You know what? I'm not even going to make the comment I was going to make because he should have no problems. We'll put it that way. He should have no problems.
I'm picking up what you're putting down there.
Yeah, for sure. Today's show brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now. On the cover, Orioles owner David Rubenstein sits down for a Q&A with Stan the Fan, Charles, and Glenn Clark. Also inside, we meet new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, as well as college lacrosse players from across the state. You can find the new issue all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, so here's why I have confidence that the Orioles are going to be in a good spot this year. That I think that they're going to be just fine when it comes to winning some baseball games. And this is kind of in response to Birdland Sports. He said, the scary thing about this team, I could see it winning 90 games, and I could see a case where it loses 90 games, LOL. And for me, it's because I think that this team is going to have a really solid lineup. I think they're going to have a really solid lineup. And specifically because of the performances this spring from Colton Cowser, Ryan Mountcastle, and Adley Rutschman. They're having huge springs. Cowser, he went deep again today. 387, 513, 613 slash line with an 1126 OPS, 2 home runs, 6 RBI, and 2 stolen bases. Ryan Mountcastle homered in 3 straight games, 290, 343, 613, 956, 3 home runs, leads the team with 10 RBI. And then Adley Rutschman, all we're hearing is how much he's going the opposite way, how many line drives he's hitting, how much more confident he looks, how much better his swing looks. 367, 457, 567 with a 1024 OPS, 2 home runs, 5 RBI. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and get fooled by spring training numbers, but these are guys that we have seen put up big numbers for the Orioles in the past. Specifically all of them. Calger had 24 home runs as a rookie, finished second in Rookie of the Year voting. Ryan Mountcastle hit 33 home runs in his first full season. Adley Rutschman is a two-time All-Star who could potentially hit 25 home runs as the catcher position. And what he was doing through the end of June last year, he was going to have he was having a monster year. You were looking at a catcher who was going to hit 30 home runs and drive in 100.
Mm-hmm. He's hitting 295 with 15 home runs in June.
Yeah, and 55 RBI. And then I'm telling you, he was hurt. We've been over this ad nauseum. We're not going to do it again. I think he was hurt. But look, he came into camp in great shape this year. The swing looks great. He looks a lot better than he did at any point in the second half last season. These guys tearing the cover off the ball in spring training, to me, and I'm watching Calger do it on off-speed pitches too, which was his biggest problem last year. Colton Calger can hit the fastball. We saw 2 springs ago. He hit a 476-foot home run to dead center field. Colton Calger can hit the fastball.
Yeah. The
off-speed stuff is where he really struggled, and we saw it when he struck out on that pitch to hit him in the hand with the bases loaded in the 5th inning in the playoffs last year. This team will go as these guys go, in my opinion. Gunnar, we know what he's going to do. Jackson Holliday, he had a triple and a single off of Jack Flaherty today. Also had a walk. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, he's Jordan Westburg 314 right now.
Yeah, he's having a great spring. Jordan Westburg is having a really good spring now that he's back from the injury. I'm not worried about what those 3 guys are going to do. What are you going to get from Calger, Mountcastle, and Rutschman? And those 3 guys taking a step forward from last year, and in the case of Mountcastle and Rutschman, taking 2 steps forward to get back to the players that they were supposed to be, I think it makes this team that much better. Your thoughts on the production that we've seen to this point from Calger, Mountcastle, and Adley Rutschman?
They all click together, it feels like.
Mm-hmm. They're also living in the same house.
Right. And, and we'll throw Tyler O'Neill in there too. Tyler O'Neill's hitting 368 right now, and I think he's a huge part, in my opinion, because you got to replace Santander's numbers. You got to keep him healthy. He's a big bat, and he's doing it against righties right now, which is great. Holliday's doing it. Kjerstad found a life. He's hitting 292 this month here, so he's hitting 188 or 182 in February, and he's picked it back up, hitting 292. So those 3 guys, too, with those other 3, they're all huge parts. Because you got, like I said, you got to replace Santander. Calger, I think you'll still see a mid-average with Calger, probably like in that 240 range. I wouldn't be shocked to see 30 home runs. I mean, the kid's got tremendous power. Mm-hmm. Absolutely tremendous power. Mountcastle, I would not be shocked again to see him over 25-plus home runs. He's just, I feel like the wall made him more of a complete hitter, where he could start hitting the ball to right field, but now he doesn't have to look to hit the ball to right field. He can let it travel and hit it there, or he can turn and burn and drop one, over into the bullpen if he wants to again. And that's going to the wall, I think, is just going to reignite the whole offense. Mm-hmm. And I put it on Twitter earlier. 66-9 last year when scoring 5 or more runs a game.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Yeah,
and the funny thing is it was only 6th best in baseball. But now they lost 3 of those games when scoring 5 runs by Craig Kimbrell, giving up a blown save. Mm-hmm. If they would have won those 3 games, they would have had the 2nd best record in baseball with 69 wins. Just behind Arizona, who had 72, which is outstanding to score 5+ runs over 80 times. It's incredible in my opinion.
I was just about to ask you, what is like an average number of times a team scores 5+ runs in a game?
Average, I would say probably 55.
Yeah.
I could look it up real quick.
Because I feel like, I mean, there was, I think back to the 96 Orioles, which is the greatest offense this team has ever had. They scored like 969 runs. It was something ridiculous. And they had to because their pitching staff had an ERA like 5.5. The next year they won 9 more games, but scored like 200 less runs. It's because their starting rotation had 4 guys win 10+ games with 3.5 ERAs. But And then the 2004 Orioles offense was really nasty. They just couldn't pitch, but that team scored like 850 runs. Average scoring 1,000 runs in a year takes about a 5.5 runs per game. If I recall my math correctly, about 5.5 runs a game gets you about 1,000 runs in the season. The Orioles were pretty close in 2023 to 5 runs a game, and they were just underneath it for at least the first half of 2024 until the offense kind of went off track. I'd be very interested to know, the top offenses in baseball, how many times in a season that they score 5 runs a game. Because I think that the Orioles could do it 80, 90 times this coming season. I think their offense is going to be really good.
So wins wise, average is 57. Losses is 12. So we can roughly say 70 games on average. Some of them hit that, some of them didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Rangers were only 48-11. Giants were 49-12. It depended on who scored them all. The most wins was Arizona, like I said, but they also lost 18 games. So they scored 90 games. They scored 5 or more runs. That's really good. Yankees were 69-13, Dodgers 69-13, Phillies were 67-12, and the Orioles were 66-9. So
wow, so 90 was the top. That was the top number, scoring 5 runs. But the Orioles go,
and they averaged 5 runs a game.
Yeah,
and we were just under that with the second half. So imagine if we didn't have that bad of a second half.
Right. And it kind of blows my mind that Arizona didn't even make the playoffs last year. I mean, they took themselves right out of it.
They sucked in the first half. They were bad.
Yeah, and I think that they blew it in the final weekend of the season too. Yep. But I mean, they won more games. They won 89 games last year and they missed the playoffs. I didn't realize their offense was that good because Corey Carroll did not have a good year last year. And this year they lost Christian Walker. Trey Mancini's having a hell of a spring out there for them.
Yeah, he is.
By the way,
hit 430 or something.
He hit
a walk-off yesterday.
Yeah, he had a walk-off yesterday. He's having a big spring, making it. Who's going to play first base for them? Is that open?
No,
for him?
They traded for Josh Naylor.
Oh, that's right. That's
so they
right.
Potentially could have gotten better at first base.
Yeah,
hitting wise.
Yeah,
Walker's getting older.
And Walker, I mean, he's got, what is his issue right now? Is it a shoulder injury that he has? Yeah, and he had an MRI, and there's nothing structural there. So or was it an oblique?
I don't remember. I thought it was shoulder, but I could be wrong too.
Yeah, but I think I think it's an oblique. I think he has an oblique situation going on, which
That'll take forever.
It'll cost him a month. That's going to cost him a month. So he might be starting kind of from scratch by the time he comes back from that injury. But again, they said nothing structural. Josh Naylor, for me, he's got to get in better shape.
Yeah, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs in that ballpark.
Yeah. Oh, he will. He absolutely will. He's going to put up big numbers, but I don't know how long his career is going to be. I've guys that can hit like that. Like remember Dimitri Young, how good of a hitter he was, and then he just ate himself out of the league. Same thing with Pablo Sandoval. Is it Pablo? Who is that? The pitcher?
No, Pablo's the third baseman.
Pablo's the third baseman, right? Like to me, guys that can hit that well and then they can't stay in shape, it just absolutely blows my mind. I feel the same thing with Vladdy. That's why Vladdy wants his money now, so he can go back to eating. He can start enjoying a double bacon cheeseburger again. Anyway, getting a little bit off track here. I want to talk a little bit about to keep going. Sorry, I forgot that we were still talking about Kaiser Mountcastle because I'm talking about double cheeseburgers over here. But this offense, I think that they have an opportunity to score a lot of runs. Jackson Holliday's tearing the cover off the ball. Gunner's going to come back. We know what kind of hitter he is. We were talking about Westberg and how great he is with runners in scoring position, how great he is with 2 strikes. He's arguably one of the best hitters in the league with 2 strikes. If Kaiser can hit 260 with 30 home runs, if Mountcastle can hit 260 with 30 home runs, which is more than possible for him. I think he's a much better hitter than what we've seen. And seeing him go the other way in the first home run of those 3 straight games of the home run was to right field.
Yep.
Rutschman going the opposite way. His most recent home run was to left center field. He's hitting a lot of balls to the opposite field. These guys are using a whole field approach. The pitching coaches are preaching a whole field approach and hitting line drives instead of just trying to focus on being a beer league softball team. this team's offense can be really, really good. What I didn't like is that I was reading Rock's article the other day, and he said that Gunnar Henderson is going to lead off for this team. I think he has to be hitting third. Like, I think you're doing this team a disservice not have him hitting third to start the year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you have anybody else right now.
Yeah.
I think Jackson earns it eventually.
We agree on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's smart to just give it to him. He's going to hit ninth, and it's virtually a leadoff spot once the lineup rolls over. Not a big deal. I think they're playing the card of, let me get my best hitter up. Let's try to get a lead early in the first inning. To me, it doesn't matter between 1 or 3, but I get the stats that, the 3-hole hitter hits with, nobody on way more than any other part of the lineup. I get it all. I think it's just by proxy right now. They just don't have anyone. Jackson will be there for a little bit. And then when Bradfield's here next year, I think they're going to just thrust him right into it because he fits the mold. I see somebody asked about Westberg being there. I think they tried it with Westberg. Westberg's just too good, I think, for being a leadoff. Like, he's a guy that, like, grinds it out. I shouldn't say that he's too good, but he does what you want a leadoff to do, but he's also, like, he just hits with runners in score position just so good. Like, no moment is too big. Like, I want him up with runners in scoring position more than I want Gunnar up, if that makes sense.
I agree with you. I think he's a natural-born run producer, and I think that I love Gunnar. I think Gunnar is the best player on the team. I think that we can all agree on that. But I think that Gunnar, to this point in his career, has shrunk in the big moments.
1,000% has.
In the brightest spotlight, he shrinks in that moment. Jordan Westberg, the dude just puts the bat on the ball when he needs to. When the Orioles need a run to be driven in, if Westberg's in there, you are confident that more often than not, he's going to do what he has to do. If he's not getting that run over, he's getting that runner in more often than not.
Yeah. To match your point, runners in scoring position in the 8th or 9th inning, Gunner's a 230 hitter with just 10 RBIs.
Yeah.
He's only 4 Ks, which surprises me, but I mean, even if I take runners in scoring position out of it, he's still a 238 hitter with 26 Ks. So he's striking out almost 30% of the time in the 8th and 9th inning.
You found that really quick. How about
Fangraphs?
Gotcha. Are you able to look up Westberg and see what his numbers look like in that situation?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
In the meantime, Birdland Sports wants to know why not lead off Kalser. I think Kalser strikes out too much too. I think that's the issue there. The guy can get on base when he's going right. He gets on base. He hits for a lot of power. He can drive the ball out of the ballpark to all fields. And he's got speed. He's got sneaky. He doesn't look like he'd be fast, but he's fast. So I get that, but I just think he strikes out a lot.
So I'm surprised to see that Westberg's only a 259 hitter in the 8th and 9th with 21 Ks, but he still has 10 RBIs, 4 home runs. He does a little bit more. I was expecting to see a little bit more out of that, but I mean, I'm not going to complain about 260 really.
Yeah, for sure. I have a lot of confidence in this team's offense, and as much as I think that this team is going to miss 44 home runs from Anthony Santander, I think they got better by not having him here. I think they got better by not having him here because you don't have that guy who's going to clog up your 3-hole hitting 235 with a 307 on base percentage.
You know what's really funny?
What's that?
Guess who's the best hitter on the team in the 8th and 9th inning?
If you say Ryan McKenna, I'm leaving.
No.
He's not on the team.
No.
Cedric Mullins?
326, Cedric Mullins.
Wow. And I mean, look, he was a guy who came through for the Orioles in the playoffs the most in 2 games. He had hits in both games, and he had that home run for their only run. So yeah,
go back to your point. We're going to go back to your point here about certain guys carrying the team. The guys who hit under 250 last year in the 8th and 9th inning: Anthony Santander, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan Mountcastle, Colton Cowser. So if you get those guys to make that leap when the game is on the line, it's going to be a scary offense.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's why, like, I see Mountcastle, and Rutschman having big springs. Maybe, if Calzer, if he takes that natural next step, right? Because when he got his cup of coffee, he was awful. He hit 115, right, or 126, something like that. Then the next season, his first full season, he hits 242. There are times where he looked like they couldn't get him out, and there were times where it looked like he had never picked up a baseball bat in his entire life. The next natural progression for him is probably 260, 30 home runs, and he's going to play that great defense. Ryan Mountcastle moving that wall and getting him out of his own head, while also he's learning how to hit the ball to the opposite field. The guy has crazy power to all parts of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rutschman, we already know what he can do, and we know that last year was probably the anomaly rather than the norm. If you get those three guys doing 80% of what we expect them to be able to do when they're going full bore, this offense is going to be really, really good. And with the expected maturation of Jackson Holiday, I think there's big things coming for that kid. Like, this offense, I have a lot of faith in, and that's the main reason I'm so excited. I think that the bullpen and the bullpen primarily is what's going to let this team down and stop this team from being the best team in the division. And I do want to get into that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was pulling up 2023 stats in the same scenario, and it was funny. Says Mullins only hit 211, so he made a huge jump. But Ryan Mountcastle's all the way at the bottom again, just like last year. But I'm looking at, so Gunnar K's a freaking ton in the 8th and 9th inning on 44 strikeouts and 111 at bats in the 8th and 9th inning in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's a guy who. It's a young player whose ascension to the face of this franchise, and make no mistake,
too much.
It came so quickly for him. He skyrocketed where he was the first pick in the second round in 2019, and then he's a good prospect, and then he makes that huge jump from 2021 to 2022, where he walked like 50 times but struck out like 180 times in 21. Then in 2022. He flips that on its head. He's driving the ball out of the ballpark to left field. He's getting on base at a crazy clip. He gets promoted to AAA, and then he gets promoted to the majors. Then he's Rookie of the Year in 2023. This is just a kid who's like, I am the face of this franchise. This is my team. I've got to put them on my back, and he's trying to do too much instead of just being the player that he already is. Mookie Betts said it to him on that podcast last year. You're already that dude. You just got to believe that you're that dude and know it. You know?
For sure.
Yeah, he's that. And
dude. Look, here's another thing. So Santander, 49 RBIs in the 8th and 9th inning the last 2 years. That's they need somebody to step up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody's got to. And look, the 8th and 9th inning. That's a time when the game's on the line and you need to score some runs. I'm interested to know what O'Hearn is like.
O'Hearn's great. He's a 322 hitter in the last 2 seasons. He's 48 for 149.
And that might be, I guarantee they've already looked at the numbers that you're looking at right now, and that's reason enough to have him on the roster.
Yeah, right, Ryan Mountcastle's a 217 hitter through 190 at bats with only 13 RBIs. So they need him to kind of pick it up when it matters.
Yeah, these guys need to take major steps forward to get this team over the top, especially because there's some turmoil going on in the American League East right now. Before we do that, remind everyone that you can find every score from every high school sporting event all year long at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The AL East, you look at the New York Yankees. If a team is gonna trade for a starting pitcher, it's got to be them.
Oh, they're so desperate.
It's got to be them because look, Heel's going to miss the first 3 months of the year at a minimum. Garrett Cole's out for the year with Tommy John surgery. Now you're relying on Carlos Rodon and
he's not good.
Yeah, and Marcus Stroman and Clark Schmidt, and Max Fried. Okay, so Max Fried ain't Garrett Cole. He's really good. He ain't Garrett Cole. So now you're already taking a step back from your ace to your new ace. Your Rookie of the Year, Luis Heel, he's out for 3 months. So your rotation, you're depending on a rotation that's legitimately Max Fried, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon, and Clark Schmidt. And I don't even remember who their 5th starter is, but
I think it's a rookie.
Yeah. So that team went from being maybe the best team in the AL East and the best rotation in the American League to I can't say they're better than the Orioles right now. You also look at the fact that Giancarlo Stanton, both of his elbows
done.
are so badly
he's
beat
done.
up. He might not play again this year, or if ever.
I don't think he ever plays again.
Yeah, like he could be potentially done. So now you look at a team that, the back end of their bullpen looks really, really good with Devin Williams back there. But Aaron Judge, look, they're going to be good because they're the Yankees, and that's what they do. They're going to be good. They'll make some moves to get some guys in there at some point this year. But right now, you've replaced Juan Soto with Cody Bellinger, and I am well documented as loving Cody Bellinger, but he ain't Juan Soto.
No,
he ain't protecting Aaron Judge the same way Juan Soto does.
He might be like on par with Tyler O'Neill.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. And then Paul Goldschmidt replacing Anthony Rizzo, maybe better defense at this point, but he got hot to end the year last year. But I don't know, man. I don't know what the Yankees are going to do. And then you go to Boston, and Rafael Devers wants to be traded. He doesn't want to give up third base, and he wants to be traded. Their rotation, I can't.
Their rotation's got a lot of ifs too, and people are ready to kind of crown them. But I mean, Walker Buehler had a 5.5 ERA last year.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just assuming that he's gonna, just because he pitched really well in a World Series, that he's gonna come out and throw to mid-3? Like, come on, could he?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, he could. He's good enough, but can he stay healthy? Can Lucas Giolito come back to what he used to be a couple of years ago? Is he gonna stay healthy? Is it Biello is already hurt?
Mm-hmm.
He's out. He's missing a little bit of time.
I think he's going to miss he's starting the year on the IL. Brian Bello.
I mean, they have just as many ifs as the Orioles. I mean, pretty much everybody does except for Tampa. Well, and everybody's already written Tampa off, but I haven't. I think Tampa's going to be pretty scary this year.
Honestly, I think that Toronto could be a lot better this year. I know you've said it on this show plenty of times that they suck, but they've got
their roster's good. Roster's good. I think just the whole organization just sucks, in my opinion. The players they're not going to gel. Once they start losing a little bit, it's all going to spiral out of control like it always does for them.
But you've got Dalton Varsho is nowhere near the player he was expected to be. No. And George Springer can't stay on the field.
And he's mid-30s now, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Bichette and Vladdy, they're going to have big years because they're both in their walk years, and they're looking for big contracts. They're going to have big years. Santander, I love him, man. I do. I love the player, but he's a 230 hitter. He gets on base at a 307 clip. Yep. To me, that's just a guy. And maybe you can blast me if you want for it. I don't have as much belief in Anthony Santander as a difference maker as I do other people. But like you said, 8th and 9th inning, he's come through with 49 RBI over the last 2 years. So that's a solid number. It's a solid number. But
I just think that Toronto is not a good place for him.
Yeah,
I just don't.
The only thing that could work to his benefit is that they'll play a lot of games indoors to start the year. So maybe it kind of mitigates that.
That's not a benefit to him.
You don't think so?
No, he's a 220 hitter in his career and 320 at-bats in retractable roofs. And in domes in 249 at-bats, he's a 188 hitter. He can't hit indoors. Toronto's not a good spot for him. And I think he knew that, but he wasn't going to turn down the money.
Mm-hmm. So can't hit indoors, can't hit in the cold.
And let's be honest with ourselves. He struggles to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And playing on turf is not easy. I could see him missing extended time in his career there.
He has managed to play over 150 games, I think 3 or 4 years in a row. He changed
always limps.
Yeah. He changed his routine, his nutrition and exercise regimen so that he could be prepared for the rigors of a full slate of games. But yeah, early in his career, I mean, that's how the Orioles got him in the Rule 5, is he had that shoulder injury and he couldn't throw in Cleveland. So the Orioles got him in the Rule 5 and they kept him on their roster. And the reason they were able to still keep him and not have him down in AAA is because he was injured going into the 2018 season.
Yep.
And then he missed the end of the 2019 season with the shoulder injury. He missed the second half of the last month of the 2020 season. That's when he decided, I got to take care of my body better so I can play. And he's posted up. But I agree with you. Playing on that kind of turf for 81 games, that's not going to be good for his body, and he's not getting younger. I don't know. I think that the AL East is wide open. I think, in my opinion, I think it's the Orioles to lose. I think the AL East is the Orioles to lose. If I look at the rest of the team, they're younger and better than every other team in the division, in my opinion.
They just got to just shore up the bullpen. The starting rotation is good enough. We've talked about playing it. It's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Get to the sixth inning. You get to the sixth inning, you have a shutdown bullpen like Cleveland did.
Mm-hmm.
They should have modeled themselves after Cleveland. With the talent that they have on offense, you didn't have to go out and get anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Model your bullpen now. Now, granted, Clase is great. I'm not sure if I'm going to say that Batista's better, but I think he's in the conversation. But you still could have went out and shored up that eighth inning and the seventh inning where you didn't give, the jitters when Cano comes in. Make that 7, 8, 9 untouchable like Cleveland did with that offense where you're scoring 4.5, 5 runs a game. You might win 100 games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just me. I just get irritated about the bullpen stuff.
What did the Yankees give up for Devin Williams? Essentially, Nestor Cortez.
Yeah, and somebody else. I think it was a good prospect.
Right,
but they don't have much left to trade for a good starting pitcher. They're gonna end up with probably Kyle Gibson or Lance Lynn.
Yeah,
they don't have anything left. They're not giving up Spencer Jones, and they're not giving up one of those arms that was throwing 100 last night.
Yeah,
like they don't have anything.
To my point though is that the Orioles could have. They could have done something to get Devin Williams without completely blasting their entire farm system. I feel like that could have been done.
They probably would have had to give up McDermott or Povich.
See, am I the only one who just doesn't have that much faith in Povich? I like McDermott. I don't think he's going to be anything.
We haven't seen enough of him. I think he's going to be a pretty good pen arm.
Yeah,
I could see him as a good pen arm because he can run it up there, upper 90s. I don't know. I just want to see him get healthy at this point. But
if he can be in their bullpen and he can be a back end arm that's really, really good, I'm good with that. But as a starting pitcher, I just don't think that McDermott has staying ability at the big league level. So, all right, we're trying to not be here till 7:00, so we're going to get to some of this viewer interaction today. David Devaney, I guess is how you pronounce his name. This GM needs to make a trade. Kjerstad and Mayo do not have a position on this team now or in the future. Please trade them for a starting pitcher. I think Kjerstad has a spot on this team, and I think that Mayo could have a spot on this team too because Mountcastle's not going to – this is like a make-or-break year for Ryan Mountcastle.
Yeah.
It's a make-or-break.
I think he's still signed through 2027, so with him having options, he's got a little bit of value.
Yeah. O'Neill probably is either going to have a really good year and not be here next year. He's going to be hurt, and they're going to be stuck with him for the next two seasons after this year. O'Hearn probably not back next year because he doesn't have an option with the team. And if there's a spot on this team for both of these players. Now, Zach, you've noticed that hitch where you said that he brings his hands up, drops them, and brings them back up again. I tried to look at it. I couldn't see it in real time because it just goes too fast. Yeah,
it's real quick.
But
it's like it'll start here and it'll come up like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like while he's loading,
mm-hmm.
and it's just you can't have that kind of movement against Major League fastballs. You can get away with it in AAA.
I think that Heston Kjerstad absolutely has a future, but just like Mountcastle, I think this is a make or break year for Kjerstad. If he doesn't prove that he belongs in the big leagues now, they may just trade him for something at the deadline.
Is Mountcastle older than Kjerstad?
Yeah, Mountcastle is 28. I think he's 29.
Just turned 28.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's 2 years older. Okay.
Yeah. Because he was a first round pick 5 years before him, but he was out of high school and Kjerstad came out of college, so they're actually a lot closer than people would think in age. John Price, not to mention, he's going to kill his confidence. He will feel regulated as a lifer in AAA. I guess he's talking about Cade Povich.
No, that's when you were. I think that was when you came in. We were talking about sending Kjerstad back to AAA.
Oh yeah. I don't think that you can send Kjerstad to AAA. I think you've got to see what he can give you at the big league level and an extended run. I've seen too many times with Brandon Hyde where a guy strikes out 3 times in a game and he doesn't play for a week because of that. I don't care if he goes 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in a game. We saw Chris Davis do that, and they get the win as a relief pitcher in a game. Yeah. I want to see Heston Kjerstad be an everyday player for at least the first, I want to say 6 weeks, but I feel like when you're in it for 6 weeks, that feels like a really long time. Give me 3 to 4 weeks of Heston Kjerstad playing every single day. And if he's not doing what Cowser did for the Cowser's final numbers, the 242 average, if he's not doing at least that After that 4 weeks, one, I'll be shocked. But two, then, okay, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I think that you give Kearse that consistent playing time, he's going to put up numbers.
Yep, I agree.
Sean Whipple, primary outfield should be O'Neill, Cowser, Kerstad with the way Mullins' bat has been this spring. Mullins has never hit well in spring training.
No, he's been downright terrible in spring training.
He's never played well in spring training. And I posted that in his final 90 games last year, he hit 279. He hit 279 with a 358 on base percentage. Now, Zach, you pointed out he didn't get many at-bats against lefties in those final 90 games. But there's a spot for Mullins on this team. Not after this year. This is his final season in Baltimore, no matter what he does. And Mullins, and I think that's why Laureano is here, because Mullins could be trade bait if he has a good first half. This dude knows he's smart. He knows what this team is looking at with him and what he's looking at with regards to his career. I expect Mullins to be when the real lights go on. I expect him to get off to a quick start.
Yeah.
Trevor Rogers needs to be rebuilt. It probably won't happen here. Let's see. I feel like you probably have to go. So I'm trying to figure out.
No, I'm good. I think. I don't even know if she's here. I think she took my kids to my mom's.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I hope that's like a good thing. Took my kids to my wife left.
My other
the
two
kids.
Yeah. They spent my older two spent the night at my mom's house. So I think she was taking my youngest one over there just to pick the other ones up.
All right. So Trevor Rogers needs to be rebuilt. I do not want him on our mound as he was last year. He scares me. Well, they even said that he was gassed last year,
and you could see it.
Yeah. I was.
I remember that start in Cleveland where he just looked tired. Like after every pitch, he was like,
and there was
like his legs just felt like they were 600 pounds.
And when the broadcasters are saying, "Oh, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings," like that was a good thing. Like that we were convincing ourselves back when what was the guy who came over here? His last name began with a C. He got traded for some prospects after the 2019 season or during the 2019 season. Andrew something or other began with a C. Pitched for the Cubs. What was that guy's name?
I don't remember.
It'll come to me when I'm on the drive home. But he was like the Orioles' best starting pitcher in 2018 or 2019.
Wasn't Jason Hamill, was it?
No. Hamill was long gone by then. They signed him and Cobb and Tillman back prior to the 2018 season. And we thought that the Orioles were going to make a run, and they won 47 games. And in 2019, he was really good. He got traded to the Red Sox for 2 prospects, Elio Prado and somebody else. I'm going to check the comments because I know somebody's going to respond.
Yeah, I'm looking up who we might have had on the mound.
His first name was Andrew. I know that. And the last name, I'm pretty sure.
Andrew Kashner.
Andrew Kashner. That's who it was.
Yeah.
But there was a point in 2018 where we're like, if he just gives him 5 innings of 3-run ball, then that's pretty good. We can live with that. And that's how they were talking about Trevor Rogers at a point last year. Let's see.
That team was bad.
Daniel says, this team is definitely going to be a top offensive team this year. It's just a matter of if our pitching can hold up. It's about the bullpen. I'm pretty confident in the starting rotation. As long as they're healthy, I'm pretty confident in the rotation. And I think that being around a bunch of really good and young players will get a guy like Charlie Morton pitching at his best, looking to win one more time before he rides off into the sunset. I think you're going to get a good year out of Morton. And I think Sugano, from what I've seen from him, I have a lot more confidence than I did when they traded for him. I just feel like, I was nervous about the ball and his transition to Major League Baseball. And I get that it's spring training, but just like Cade Povich not walking people in spring training, that's important. Sugano getting results in spring training, that's important. I have confidence in this rotation. My biggest question mark is honestly Dean Kramer. It's honestly Dean Kramer. What is he going to be? A 4.5 guy?
He starts off slow too. So and people are going to lose their mind. He's got like a career 6 ERA in April. People are going to lose their mind, but it's just who Dean is. And then he comes in the next month. He's got like a 3, like a low 3. And then right around the All-Star break, he sucks again. But then September and August, or August and September, he turns it on, and he's good. A sub 3 ERA in his career in September and October. So I mean, when it starts getting tight is when Dean starts doing well. I just wish he would get a little bit more consistent because he sucks in April and May.
Yeah, it's Anthony Santander of the starting rotation.
Yeah.
AJ wants to know, did anybody sign Robertson yet? If not, when do you think Baker implodes? When do you think Baker
appearance
implodes?
like number 5.
Yeah, when he comes in with
Against the
anybody
Yankees,
on
against Aaron
base.
Judge.
Right.
Yeah.
When he comes in the 8th inning against Aaron Judge at some point in April, and there's 2 guys on base, and the Orioles are up by 2. That's when he's going to implode.
And he threw a ball right down the middle that, I was just throwing a strike. And then it gets hit 519 feet.
When I miss, it's down the middle. I'm just happy to be throwing strikes. Get off my team. Good Lord. Oh, I read that, and I was like, this is supposed to be a good thing? Ugh. A deep. 3 to 4 years from now, will Westbrook have the best playoff best playoff performances between him, Adley, Gunnar, and Cowser?
I'd say between him and Adley.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Westbrook's going to be a dude. You're going to see that guy hit 275 with 30 plus home runs this year. He's a dude, and he's going to drive in 100. For me, Jordan Westbrook is a perfect 5 hitter on this team. He's a perfect 5 hitter on this team,
or 3 or 5.
Yeah, he has to hit somewhere in the middle of your order, because you're not going to find anybody on this team that is better at driving in runs than Jordan Westbrook. I've said it so many times, a natural born run producer. Randall, I don't think the rotation or the bullpen is where they should be at this point. Maybe Elias does it again on the last day. Doubt it. Eflin has opening day. Well, yeah, we know that Eflin has opening day. I don't know. I can't predict what this team's going to do.
They're going to go through at least April before they even find a team that's going to say, okay, let's trade our guys. Yeah, everybody's got a shot when you start. You just got to see where things go by June and whatnot. It's very hard to land a trade early in the season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have to be with a team that is already bad, that has somebody who's gotten off to a great start in the bullpen, something like that. And that's how you add to the. It was like when Kansas City traded Aroldis Chapman to Texas in like May of 2023. It's something like that, where the Royals knew that they weren't going anywhere at that point. Although they got off to a hot start in 2023, and then they fell off. But they traded Chapman to the Rangers, and he helped them win a World Series. I don't want Chapman. I think he's a scumbag, but something like that.
He's in Boston, thankfully.
Yeah. AJ, here's my surprise take for the year. I do think Mullins has a clutch gene based on his home run in Game 2 of the playoffs last year, so I think he has a really good year this year in his make money year, and could be the good leadoff hitter this year. He's been batting leadoff a good bit in spring training. I think the ship has sailed on him batting leadoff for this team, unless it's against – maybe it's against a righty every now and again. But for me, I look at Cedric Mullins, and I don't think he's ever going to be that 291 hitter that hits 30 home runs in a year again. I think that was an anomaly. But I can 100% see Cedric hitting 18, 20, 22 home runs this year, hitting 265, stealing 30 bags, and either getting the Orioles a comp pick when he leaves in free agency, or being a big trade piece. I could see him being a big trade piece for the Orioles at the deadline, especially if they are looking to have Cowser, Kjerstad, and O'Neill in the lineup at the same time, or Floriano is playing like he did down the stretch of the Braves last year. All good over there?
Yeah, my mom was just wondering where I was.
Oh,
she's like, I heard from you for a while, and I thought maybe one of the kids probably fell and got hurt, but
gotcha.
I think they're all hungry.
Yeah, I should probably give my dad a call. I talked to my mom a fair amount. I got to call my dad. Your thoughts? He says he thinks that Mullins has a clutch gene based on his home run in Game 2 of the playoffs. Has a good year in his make money year. He has a lot of
helps
incentive.
The team.
Yeah,
whatever it does, it helps the team.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as he doesn't suck, we're all going to root for him. And if he adds any more value than what he did last year, it just makes the offense even better.
Yeah, exactly. Zach, you texted me earlier about this. Joey Gallo trying to be a pitcher now, and I texted you back. It's his only chance at continuing his baseball career. It's the only chance he has. Like the guy has.
Lucky for him, is he still dating Maddox's daughter, Greg Maddox?
I don't know. I never knew he was
dating.
If
he was, I mean, that's a hell of a guy to have in your corner there.
Yeah, your father-in-law or potential father-in-law is maybe one of the greatest pitchers. Not maybe, is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Randall, O's need 2 bullpen pieces. 100. I thought they needed another bullpen piece before Kittredge got hurt. They absolutely do. O's have way too many ifs in this bullpen and rotation. I'd say with the bullpen, the rotation, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about this rotation. I think they've got a lot of guys who are solid 2s or 3s on a lot of teams. Let's see. The Rangers and Red Sox rotations are really good. The Rangers are beat up. The Rangers are beat up. They just lost. John Gray just broke his wrist. Who was the other starter who was supposed to start the year for them, and he's going to miss the season? He's going to miss the start of the year. It's a young guy who's having a good spring. I can't remember his name. But
Lighter
not Lighter.
or Rocker?
No, both of those guys are having good springs. And I know DeGrom's back, and people are really high on him because he's the best pitcher in the world when he's healthy. That's a big if for them because he hasn't been healthy since 2020. So
yeah, everybody in baseball has ifs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the Royals rotation is good also. Yeah, the Royals can be scary good. A lot of teams have good rotations. The Yankees had the best.
Detroit's got a great rotation, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing that these teams that made the playoffs last year, they all have an ace. The Orioles don't have that. And again, like I said, I don't have confidence they're going to go get one, but I do think that they have good enough starting pitching with a good enough offense. They're doing themselves a disservice by not having a better bullpen. Who are your bubble players to make the team? I feel like we have several DFAs at the end of spring. Zach, I'll let you handle this one first because I really want to think on this because I think the roster is pretty much set just with a couple of injury question marks.
I think your biggest bubble guy is Mateo, like we kind of talked about. I mean, the roster's pretty set, and Mateo, I don't think they have a spot for right now, and I think they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna start him hurt on purpose to give themselves some time to evaluate some more quality pitching and regular season games when it actually matters and try to figure out who is the actual bubble guy because I don't think they know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know offensively and they don't know in the bullpen. I mean, they're in a bad spot, in my opinion. Just not having the options and then, not really having like a set guy that is on the bubble. Like, is Ramon Urias on the bubble and he was one of your better hitters for a good portion of the season? I mean, I get Mateo's speed, but like realistically, is he better than anybody else on the roster outside of his speed?
Jorge Mateo somehow finds a way every single year to start a bunch of games for this team. I think they love him. They love his defense. They love his speed. And if he can be a league average hitter, they love him on this roster. I think more than anything.
What's league average for them? 200?
Yeah, he's never. I mean, he's been about a 215 hitter since he's been in Baltimore.
Lefties, but I mean, like,
right, and that's why his injury is the best thing for Jackson Holliday because he's going to get an opportunity to play second base every single day. Because if Mateo were healthy, Jackson would be in a platoon. Jackson would be playing second base against righties, and Mateo would be playing second base against lefties. But look, I think Mateo.
I don't think they want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that they should.
They would, but I don't think they want to. I think they really want Jackson to get these at bats.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that injury was a blessing in disguise for Jackson Holliday. And not that I wanted them to get hurt, but that's for Jackson Holliday. Nobody benefits more from that than Holliday does. Ramon Urias, for me, he doesn't play shortstop. They say that he can. I think he's got like two games at shortstop since he's been an Oriole, and that might be one too many. And yeah, maybe you move Jackson to shortstop if you need to give Gunnar a rest, or maybe you have Westberg play shortstop. But I think because Mateo can play up the middle, he can play in the outfield, and he's got that speed, and his glove is elite anywhere in the infield. I think he's the one who stays, and I think that Urias might be on that bubble. I think O'Hearn should 100% be on the roster bubble because I just don't see a place for him. But you're looking at a guy who hits 324 in the 8th and 9th inning in the last 2 years. So there's a place for somebody.
He's a very clutch hitter off the bench and, late in the game, runners in scoring position, 2 strikes. Like, he's a professional hitter. I don't want to see him in the outfield. Don't want to see him in the outfield. I tolerate him at first. I much prefer Ryan Mountcastle at first base. The defense is just better, but there's no question that Ryan O'Hearn is just an outstanding professional hitter. Mm-hmm. It's just a hard guy to get rid of.
Yeah, and I get that, but he's 32 years old. That you've got younger guys who are cheaper. That's why I don't think he has a spot here. But he's gonna start the year, and again, it's never a personal thing. It's never a personal thing, but it's just I just don't see a spot for him. but he'll be here. He'll be here. Daniel Pitts, Andrew Kashner had 28 starts with 15 losses and a 5.29 ERA in 2018. I forgot how bad our team was then. 47 and 115. Yeah, worst team I've ever seen. And one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. Kashner the next season, though, in 2019, I think he had like a 3.5 ERA and he got himself traded to Boston. And I think only one of those two guys that came back are even still in the system. I think that's Elio Prado. The other guy, I can't remember his name, but he's no longer here. Daniel, what did you think of the Bradfield at bat in the spring breakout game? Well, he had 3. He went 2 for 3. Are you talking about the leadoff? The leadoff at bat?
Leadoff. That was a great at bat.
Yeah. Yeah, it had the nice base hit. When I saw, because I was at work, and when I saw the video that the Orioles player development admin team put out saying Bradfield is electric, I thought that he was going to turn that single into a double. I thought that's what they were talking about. But and I like he is crazy fast. We also found out after the game that his best friend since childhood died in a motorcycle accident last week, and so he was playing that game for him
Wednesday. Yeah.
I look at Bradfield. What are your thoughts on Bradfield? Because Luke Jackson, who's our senior editor at Press Box, big baseball guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's hosted the show with me a handful of times. He doesn't think that Bradfield's ever going to hit enough to be an everyday player at the big league level. I think that if you teach that, I think that what they're trying to do is teach him to keep the ball on the ground, hit line drives, and find ways to get on base and utilize his speed. Your thoughts on Bradfield? Because I think that he's a lot better than people give him credit for.
I do too. I mean, to me, the hands have gotten quicker with a wooden bat this year than what I saw last year. And when I seen him stay on that ball yesterday, I mean, that was a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and he stayed right on it and just drove it to left center field. And it wasn't like he was overmatched. It was just a good swing. It was a professional swing. And if he does that, he's going to go places. And he's already, I'm going to go out and on a limb, he is the best center fielder in baseball right now. And the O's might not even need him in center field because Honeycutt's just as good.
Yeah. Honeycutt had an inside the park home run yesterday.
And Austin O'Verne is just as fast and plays an excellent center field. And then a lot of people don't know about Nate George. Nate George is going to be right there too, probably after this year. He was the 16th rounder last year, signed for $455,000. They gave a 16th rounder $455 for a reason. Kid can run, and if he can hit a little bit, he's going to be right there too.
The Orioles farm system has fallen off, but that's because they're better players, with the exception of a few are at the. You were talking about this weeks ago on the show about the pitching that's coming up in the low levels of the minors right now. They've got like a dozen guys that can throw 100 miles an hour. They've got some guys coming, and they've got some outfielders coming as well. I don't think they're worried at all about what they're going to do with their outfield in the future. And it might be why you aren't seeing them sign some long-term guys, because they want to be able to keep the guys that they have in-house, like Gunnar and Adley and Holiday and Westberg. And it's like, our outfield's going to be set for a really, really long time.
Long time.
They're not worried about Cedric at all. They're like, all right, Cedric, thank you for your service. We'll give you a gold watch, man, when he leaves, because they've got a bunch of guys who are coming right behind him.
Yeah, the speed is incredible. I mean, Bradfield's an 80 speed. O'Verne's a 75. Honeycutt's a 70. Nate George is a 75. Like, it's incredible how fast these guys are. And you're eventually going to get to a point where, like, and Cowser can run, and Cowser are going to be, like, literally slow as hell looking compared to some of these guys.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Daniel says, I think Bradfield can hit the same as Mullins with better speed, not as many home runs, but can match the average. If he can hit 250 at the big league level, he's an everyday player. Not everybody needs to be an all-star, right? But if you got an everyday center fielder that plays defense like him, that can run like him, and he hits 250, that's an everyday player. That's how the Orioles feel about Jorge Mateo.
Even 230, honestly. Right. If you have one guy in your lineup hitting 230, make it your center fielder who's a freaking Gold Glover. It wouldn't matter.
Well, that's Cedric Mullins right now.
Right.
That's Cedric. AJ says Luke Jackson never liked Bradfield. Yeah, he's said it many times on the show how he feels about Bradfield. He doesn't hate him as a person. He just doesn't think he'll ever be more than the fourth outfielder. We'll see. He also said Lake makes a lot of decisions about guys at Aberdeen because he sees the guys there, but Bradfield's matured a lot since his Aberdeen days. And look, I'm not trying to hate on Luke. I love having Luke on this show. Luke was a candidate to replace Ryan Blake on the show at a point. He just could never get his internet connection to work long enough for us to be able to trust it. And the thing, Luke does see a lot of guys at Aberdeen. It was harder when Aberdeen was low A. Now Aberdeen is high A. So you're seeing a lot of the guys that get drafted out of college. They end up at high A in their first season or maybe in their first full season. So you see a lot of talent there. But it would be short-sighted to think that a player is who he's going to be when they're just at the high A level, unless he's 24 years old playing at high A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and then final comment, Birdland Sports Zone says the Royals are going to win the World Series. My guy, you misspelled Orioles. It's all right. It's all right.
I don't think the Royals get past the Tigers.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody gets past the Dodgers when they do get to the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got anything else for us today, Zach, before we get out of here?
Nope. Let's go O's.
All right, let's go O's. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Zach, thank you for your semi-monthly, is it semi-monthly or bi-weekly appearances on the show. We certainly appreciate you coming on and being our semi-regular, I think is what I was trying to say there. And thank you to all of our listeners, fans, viewers. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. Until next week, the final show before opening day. Until then, see ya.